Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today, me and Toby are going to have a little bit of fun and do something different, and we're going to be doing our 10 predictions for 2025. And this could be absolutely anything in the world of football. It could be about a team, it could be about a player, it could be about a transfer, it could be anything. And we're just going to have a bit of fun with it. Let us know in the comments below if you got any predictions for the year of 2025 as well. So, Toby, how did you find this? Is it quite easy predicting things are going to happen or not so much?
Yeah, I think it was good fun. It was trying to get that crystal ball out and see what might be happening. It was it was pretty easy, I think, to get some like names and some teams down on paper. But I think some of the bigger shouts, I think, is more a little bit more nervy, maybe about putting those opinions out there. Obviously, when they are inevitably going to be proven wrong next year when none of the predictions actually happen. But we'll see. It was good fun at least. I'll say that. How about you?
Yeah, it was a good laugh, but like I said, I do have the little bit of fear that if I get anything wrong, then it's going to come back and haunt me. So hopefully this podcast doesn't necessarily get as many views as some of the others, but we'll see how it does. And I suppose I'll go first then, because my first prediction is a Ballon d'Or winner. Yes, I'm going to try and predict the 2025 Ballon d'Or winner. And so when I was thinking about it, I need someone who has obviously won the league, probably in their country, someone who has gone far in the Champions League. Hopefully they've won it. And you know what? Maybe the Club World Cup will have an impact as well. Who knows? But I was thinking to myself, in terms of players who, are up there, there's probably only a handful, maybe a dozen, who could actually win the Ballon d'Or now that Messi and Ronaldo have gone. And I went for someone who I think has a little bit of credit in bank because of the fact that they probably should have won it in the 2019-2020 season, which ended up being the COVID year. And I've gone for Robert Lewandowski of Barcelona. I think just because of the fact that he's got the credit in the bank, he's a goal scorer. He's going to be up there. He's got a chance of winning trophies. It could be him. Whether it is him or not, who knows? But I've gone for Lewandowski winning the Ballon d'Or.
That is a really big shout. I love that. I really like that, and I absolutely love Lewandowski. He's so like I still think he's so underrated. The amount of goals he scored is insane, and he's so technically good. And I think that's a massive part of his game that's underrated. And maybe he's just seen as like a target man and a goal scorer, but he is so much more than that. And as you said, has certainly been deserving of at least one Ballon d'Or, if not a couple over the last few years. The season after that in 2021 as well, he was exceptional. Um, and with Barcelona, like you said, the team makes a big difference playing for a huge club like Barcelona, who started the season very, very strongly. Their form's dipped a little bit now, but I'm sure it is just a blip. Champions League looking really strong as well in the automatic qualification spots at the moment. And yeah, that is a good shout. It's potentially maybe a bit of an outside shout, but if he keeps bagging them in, then certainly could be up there even at his age now.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a couple more flashy players, some of the wider players. I think Lamine Yamal's got a great chance of winning it, but also not only him. You like of Mbappe and Vinicius Junior at Real Madrid. I think potentially Harry Kane if Bayern Munich win the league and the Champions League. I think there's a chance of that. So I think there's a lot of players who could be in and around the mix, but I just think that the reason why I went for Lewandowski is because even though he didn't win one. I think everyone expects him to win that year. I mean, even Benzema, when he won the Ballon d'Or the season after, did credit him and saying, you know, Robert, we all know you should have won one. And I wonder if he would have said those same words knowing he ended up moving to Barcelona from Bayern Munich. But I think it is one where, in terms of character as well, he's a very humble guy, doesn't grab too many headlines, just goes about, does his job. And yeah, and hopefully, I think he is a player who, I think, if not necessarily actually does go on to win a Ballon d'Or, who can also say does deserve one. Did you go for a Ballon d'Or winner in your predictions, Tobes?
I've gone for a maybe Ballon d'Or winner in my first prediction. So it is all around the Egyptian king that is Mo Salah. Um, I think he will renew his contract at Liverpool. I think he will become the fourth all-time top scorer next year, and maybe, just maybe, win a Ballon d'Or. An exceptional start to the season, and now that the Ballon d'Or is season based as opposed to calendar year, 13 goals and 9 assists in the Prem alone. Liverpool top of the Champions League, Liverpool top of the Premier League, and I think if they win either of those and his form continues in terms of goal scoring and creating, I think the Ballon d'Or is his, to be honest, especially without sort of your Euros or your World Cup, which has a huge pull in terms of the Ballon d'Or. And given his form and where Liverpool are in the leagues now, a lot of it down to him. I think they would be absolutely crazy not to give him a new contract and keep him for as long as they can, because somehow just is he keeps getting better. I was going to say he's just as good. He's somehow still getting even better. It's mental.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about Salah as for the Ballon d'Or, and I was thinking about him as one of the contenders. And obviously, I can't say him because it's biased, so I want to be very neutral. But if you said it, then I can't have any complaints about that whatsoever. I do think that he has a chance of being up there. I think the thing is with Liverpool is that he needs to be winning the league or winning the Champions League, and ideally he wins both. I mean, not just because I'm a Liverpool fan, but for him and to try and do it, because he is a player who seemingly has been a bit overlooked in the Ballon d'Or rankings. I mean, he wasn't even in the contention in 2024, so I think he does deserve a few more flowers than what he's probably got.
Yeah, and I think that's a big reason why he will be higher in the voting, I think, this season, given that he has been snubbed and snubbed over a few seasons. And I think when he won that Puskás Goal of the Year, that was almost like an apology for the lack of votes that he got in that incredible season that he had. And this season as well, it feels like he's really getting those accolades of being one of the best Prem players of all time. And I think that can really, really push a player, I think, to win these sorts of awards, is sort of that social media and fan narrative can really push in and go into the players and the people who vote. And yeah, he's on 170 Prem goals at the moment. Fourth place is on 187, so he only needs 18 goals to be clear in fourth. I was almost tempted to put third place, which was 208, but I think 38 Prem goals over the calendar year was maybe a little bit optimistic, so I went for the safe option of fourth, but he could easily break that 200 mark if he keeps bagging them.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I love that prediction. I think with the Ballon d'Or though, I think I think you are right in the fact that because he's been overlooked, he will have a greater chance of winning it. I do still think so that if he doesn't stay at Liverpool at the end of the season, then that could potentially hamper it a little bit. But let's say he won a trophy at Liverpool, did amazingly well, which you expect him to do, and then he went to like a Real Madrid or Barcelona, which I don't expect him to do because I don't think they need him, and because of financial situations of the clubs. That would be like a guarantee of him winning the Ballon d'Or. But I think if he was at Liverpool, he's got an outside chance. But yeah, he could do it. He could be the first Liverpool player to win the Ballon d'Or since Michael Owen in 2001, which would be crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I think Liverpool would be mental not to give him a new contract, and yeah, there's obviously talks around a few players with Liverpool contracts at the moment, so it's going to be a big push for Liverpool really to get those deals done.
Yeah, and well, that brings us nicely on to my second prediction, our third prediction of the video, and that is that I do not believe that Trent Alexander-Arnold will extend his contract. I believe that by the end of 2025, Trent Alexander-Arnold will be a Real Madrid player. Now, this one hurts, obviously, for obvious reasons. I would love Trent Alexander-Arnold to stay, but I was just reading something the other day from a contract lawyer, and I thought it was quite interesting because it was the perspective of them in an industry outside of football and how potentially Liverpool's sporting director Richard Hughes would be thinking. And it's about, yes, you can be rewarded for what you've done previously, but you're thinking about what the player is going to do in the future and can they actually deliver on that. And I think with Trent Alexander-Arnold, there's no doubt about that. But the issue is because he's a right back and how much he impacts the game, I think if Liverpool would offer him like 300,000 a week, £350,000 a week, it would clearly be unsustainable because Van Dijk would have to be paid more, Salah would have to be paid more, and if Liverpool were to sign any forward player in the future, they would go, I'm going to score you 20 goals a season. Trent Alexander-Arnold is not going to do that. Pay me more than him. And even if you're just a decent Premier League forward and not necessarily a world-class one, they'd probably say, well, I changed and impact the game more than Trent, which is why I think Trent won't be getting offered the amount of money he wants at Liverpool. And because he has literally won everything at Liverpool, I think he will now see this as an opportunity to make, I don't know, not life-changing money because he's already on that, and most Premier League footballers are on that, but something which he can never have dreamt of. And potentially, he wants to win the biggest trophies regularly and also be in the contention for the Ballon d'Or. I think the club and Trent will not meet in terms of contracts, and I think he will leave. And obviously, destination is Real Madrid with Danny Carvajal having his ACL injury, and having a bit of an issue at right back with Freddie Valverde playing there at the moment. I think it's just the timing is just too good to ignore, and I think Trent will leave, as sad as it is.
Yeah, timing is a big one, like you've just said. Obviously, Danny Carvajal not really getting on, but he's getting to an age where they probably are going to be eyeing up a replacement. Trent, a lot younger, incredibly gifted player, and that's the thing with Real Madrid, isn't it? It's the pull of Real Madrid. They've got the money to offer to anyone, and money that they save maybe on not huge transfer fees and waiting for players to go on free because they know when Real Madrid come knocking, you answer. And I'm sure Agent Jude has been in Trent's ear saying, "This is the club to be. This is every footballer's goal, and pack your bags and get over here." Because how can you say no to Real Madrid? Even as a boyhood Liverpool fan, being there in the academy for a long time, it feels like it's the right time, I think, for Trent to make that sort of step up from being maybe a Liverpool and a Premier League legend to what he could become one of the best right backs in Europe, I guess, in like European history potentially. He has the talent for me, I think, to be regarded really like as someone on almost that sort of Dani Alves level or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a question of ability. I think it's just a question of perception because if he leaves Liverpool, I mean, there will be this thing among Liverpool fans, and I've heard Jamie Carragher talk about it a lot. Because obviously him being a Scouser born and bred, him playing for Liverpool his whole career, and him having a similar situation with Steven Gerrard, who did in the end decide to stay. And then he also saw with Michael Owen and Steve McManaman players who decided to leave. He's seen both ends of it, and he keeps saying that Trent will not. People will be talking about him as, who do you think you are leaving? I mean, you're playing for your boyhood club, you're playing for the dream. Why leave? And that's fair enough. But if you take the emotion out of it and think of Trent as just his own single entity and as a player, of course you're going to understand him leaving. I mean, the chance of winning more regular trophies, I think even if you take the money out of it, Liverpool have only won one Premier League, only won one Champions League. To be considered one of the greatest ever, you have to win multiple, and there's no guarantee of that at Liverpool because the Premier League is so competitive. I mean, they'll have a great chance this season, and who knows, maybe Trent could use this as a, I've won it again, and now I'm going to leave, so, you're welcome. But yeah, I think there's no way him or his PR team or anyone associated with Trent Alexander-Arnold can shift this as a, I've done everything I can, because everything he can be would to sign a new contract. But I think the level of player he wants to be, as someone who grew up as a more forward attacking minded player, as kind of a midfielder, will want to have the biggest accolade next to his name. He will want to be the Balon d'Or winner. He will want to win the numerous trophies. And I think he'll leave. I think it's either him, Van Dijk, and Salah. I think he's the most obvious one that is likely to leave.
Yeah, I think when you put it like those three, yeah, I think Trent is the most likely. I think he's the most that other clubs will want to obtain as well, which is a huge thing, and we'll get those offers in the ridiculous sort of salary ranges you said.
Yeah, and speaking of a lot of money, Toby, your third one has something to do with money and a particular club as well.
Yeah, my next prediction is that I think just to make a statement to the league potentially more than anything, and to show that they are still the biggest club in the country, that they've got the firepower. Maybe we haven't seen it too much just recently, but yeah, I think that Manchester City will make a huge statement signing in the summer 2025 transfer window. I think they do need a bit of a squad rejuvenation, as we've seen this year. I think maybe the motivation's feeling a little bit low. The squad is aging. The star power isn't necessarily there in City's squad in a weird way. I think they have almost a world-class player in every single position, but it doesn't feel like they have anyone who is incredibly exciting, which I think is maybe sort of dampening things a little bit. And there's not really that sort of that thrill and that attacking flair at the moment at Manchester City. So I think they are going to be making a signing of at least £100 million up into that £150 million mark. And for me, there's a few names floating around there that I think they could certainly acquire to kick back that Manchester City dominance that we know, and set them up into the next season.
Yeah, I can definitely see that one actually. I'm actually quite annoyed I didn't think of that myself, I'll be honest, because I was thinking about players who could go for 100 million and, clubs that they're likely to go to, and Man City is definitely one of those destinations. I have to ask you though, because if Man City is signing a player of that caliber, and considering what they need at the moment, surely you've gone for a midfielder, but I don't think defensive midfielders are necessarily that well. I mean, Rice and Casado maybe, but I think the ones that are on the market at the moment probably aren't going to 100 million. So I'm guessing you're going to go for more attack-minded midfielders.
Yeah, I had a couple names, and one of them actually was more of a deeper lying player in Bruno Guimaraes. I think that's someone they could certainly acquire for around £100 million. I think Newcastle potentially need the sale as well for their PSR, and I don't think they need to spend that much on a DM, like a pure Rodri replacement, because at the end of the day he is just going to be a replacement. Whereas I think with someone like Bruno Guimaraes, he can play that Rodri role, but he can also play a little bit further forward where sort of Kovacic, Gundogan play, and I think the jump up in quality from those players to him, I think, is huge, and he would be a fantastic player in that Pep system for me. But the first name that I had written down instantly was Florian Wirtz, £150 million potentially, but he is so good, still so young. A lot of rumours floating around of him potentially making a move, looking at Bayern Munich, Manchester City, two of probably some of the only clubs that could afford to pay what Leverkusen will want for him. But I could really, really see him playing just behind Haaland. He could play out on the wing if needed as well. Really, really good at retaining possession as well, which is obviously super important to Pep. And I think would just be a massive, massive statement that there's one of the best attacking players in the world at such a young age in Manchester City. You can just go and pick him up. A couple others, maybe someone like Xavi Simons, maybe that sort of step down from Wirtz, or on a similar level, even if they could tempt someone like Jamal Musiala away, who can play a number of roles just off the striker, or can even sit back a little bit deeper as well. So not sure exactly who. For me, probably Wirtz or Bruno Guimaraes would be top of that list, but I just feel like it's coming. It feels like it's been coming for a little bit now, that Manchester City need something to, give them that little bit of oomph to get them back to where they were.
Yeah, they never seem to overpay massively on players, and if they were to, if a club quotes them a massive fee which they're not willing to pay, then they do seem to, leave the table and, go, we're not willing to pay this. I will say though, I think with the recent form Man City been on and the fact that they're struggling in the league and Champions League, I think that will probably push them to overpay for maybe one player. And if you are going to do it, then, someone like a Florian Wirtz is not the end of the world. I think that also, like you said, I think there could be a bidding war between Man City and Bayern Munich, because Bayern Munich seemingly want to join up Musiala and Wirtz together, and that German combination, and I think that would be absolutely frightening if we're being honest. So yeah, I can absolutely see that. I think Bruno Guimaraes, I can see that as well for over £100 million. I will say though, I think with him, just because of his age and the fact that Newcastle are probably in a situation now where they think they might have to sell to reinvest and grow the squad. I think that's one where I think that could probably go for less than £100 million. But I think Wirtz, absolutely, he's one of the best players on the planet at such a young age, and yeah, he has to be going for over 100 million. So yeah, I can actually completely see that, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one of your predictions that does come to fruition.
Yeah, and it's one of the predictions. As an Arsenal fan, I'm sure you feel the same as a Liverpool fan, that maybe deep down we kind of want to be wrong, and don't want it to see it happen.
Yeah, it is one of those where you would love him at your club, but you don't necessarily want to see him at another club either. Okay, I'm trying to think where I should go next. So my third prediction, since you've probably very nicely teed me off with someone leaving Bayer Leverkusen in the year 2025, I've gone for Bayer Leverkusen also losing their manager in Xabi Alonso. Where's he going to go? Well, I think that come the 25-26 season, come the start of it, I think Xabi Alonso will be the manager of Real Madrid. I know. This is potentially ballsy, but one that's probably been lined up as well in the pipework for a little bit of time now, considering how well Alonso has done in Germany and with Bayer Leverkusen. And I think with the noises coming out of Madrid, even though they're still in contention for the title race, they're not doing great in the Champions League at the time of recording, but there's always time for them to turn around. It is Real Madrid. I do think that potentially Real Madrid at the top will see Xabi Alonso doing well, and will maybe try and accelerate any plans they had and bring in Alonso a bit earlier, just because they need someone, I think, just to freshen up the place a little bit and to try and get that, front attacking line of Vinicius and Mbappe working together, playing well. And what better to do it than, a player who's literally won everything.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really good one. And I think when we saw Xabi Alonso's exceptional season, obviously last year, there was a lot of rumours about him going in the summer. It didn't feel like that was going to happen, and it felt like maybe it'd be a silly preemptive decision for him to go. He should really see out this Champions League campaign, get that second season, and maybe see where he can go with Leverkusen. And while they have been decent, yeah, second in the league, still playing okay in the Champions League as well. It does feel lined up that he's going to go to Real Madrid. And I think Real Madrid will do all that they can to get him as well if this is on the table. Whilst they've got, like you said, there's such incredible attacking talent, still players sort of getting into their prime, sort of 26, 27 years old. And with Ancelotti, as an exceptional as a manager as he is and how well he has done in this spell of Real Madrid, when he was appointed, it didn't feel like this was a very sort of long-term appointment. It almost felt initially like it was sort of a stopgap for maybe their next manager, their next young manager to come in and be there for a number of years and really carry Madrid and almost transform them. So yeah, I think I really like that prediction. I think next season, and if not then the season after, one of those twos, I would be very, very confident it's going to happen. And it would be very exciting to see it sooner rather than later. So I'm hoping to see that because that would be pretty mental.
Yeah, so far I've predicted Bayer Leverkusen to lose a manager, and you've predicted them to lose one of their best players, if not their best player. So Bayer Leverkusen fans, I'm not sure there's many of you watching, but if you are, then we profusely apologise. But I just think in terms of the football, hierarchy, there is one. I think, unfortunately, Real Madrid is the club that most people idealise themselves as being at one day. And I think for Xabi Alonso, someone who played there as well, I think, being Spanish, there is a very natural link and it all comes together. And whether the jigsaw can come together and the timing is right for both the club and the manager himself, we'll have to be wait and see. But I think it's one where even if it doesn't happen in 2025, which it may not, if we're being honest, because Ancelotti is one of the best managers ever. He could turn things around. He could win the La Liga and the Champions League, and then we go, actually, Dino Juan, maybe we can keep him in charge for a couple more years. But I think at some point, whether it's sooner rather than later, Xabi Alonso will be the manager. So whether it's 2025 or not, I'm still pretty happy with that prediction.
Yeah, and just to carry on some Leverkusen bad news in terms of our predictions, I'll go on to my third one now, and that is that I think two trophy ducks this season will be broken, both North London related. I think Arsenal will be winning a trophy in 2025, and I think Harry Kane at Bayern Munich will as well. And yeah, the Leverkusen troubles continue with me for Harry Kane, because I think Bayern will certainly win the Bundesliga this season. Looking really, really good this year. Really impressed by them. Really like their squad and what they're doing, and potentially even a chance for the Champions League for Bayern, I think, as well. A few sort of inconsistent results potentially. But they will certainly get into that round of 16, and once they are there with that experience, they are a pure animal in Europe. So I think Harry Kane is finally going to win that trophy, most certainly at the expense of Leverkusen in the Bundesliga, if not a Champions League on top as well. I wouldn't rule it out.
Imagine that Harry Kane trophy win is the Nations League. Imagine how gutted he would be. I'm sure he'd be pretty happy, but still. Okay, let's break it down. That's kind of two predictions. You're kind of cheating there, but let's break them down one by one, right? So the Harry Kane one, I think I'm right in saying, I don't know for certain, that I think Bayern Munich are out of the DFB Pokal, the German competition.
Yeah, they actually lost to Leverkusen as well. So Leverkusen, they just keep coming up in this episode, man. But yeah, they lost to them 1-0, I think, in one of the early rounds of the DFB Pokal.
Okay, so he's only got really the league or the Champions League. I mean, they're doing okay in the Champions League and they're doing well at the Bundesliga as well. Oh, I mean, you probably expect Bayern Munich to do it, so that's fine. But I think because it's one prediction, you got two things that need to happen, and the second one, like the odds on of Harry Kane breaking his trophy duck, probably expected. But with Arsenal also breaking their trophy duck and winning something in 2025, what are they winning then, Tobes?
I feel pretty confident as an Arsenal fan that we will win the League Cup this season. I think with Manchester City out and maybe the pressure that's on Arteta to win a trophy this season. It really feels like this season he has to win a trophy. We've seen the improvement in points in the league position without the Premier League trophy, but we need some silverware to really, really reflect that improvement that we've had and to sort of certify us as one of the best clubs in the country at the moment. Because without it, I don't think you can be classed as that. You really can't. And I think now with the squad that we have, it feels like we should be winning trophies. And I think with the League Cup, I think Arteta is probably going to be starting more experienced players and using it less as like a time for sort of youth players to come in now that we are at the quarterfinals. And by the time this episode comes out, Arsenal will have played their quarterfinal over Palace. It is at home, so without looking too stupid, I'll say that we probably won that game. Feel free to edit that out if I don't. And then again with the FA Cup, I still think we've got a really good chance of going a decent distance in that as well. Champions League and Premier League, there's a bit of a chance we could win either of them, but I'm certainly not confident in saying that we would win the Premier League, and I'm definitely not confident in saying that we would win the Champions League. But again, with the Champions League it being a cup competition, there's always a chance, even if it's a very, 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 very slim one.
Oh, mate, you've gone bold there. So you're either going to look like a genius in hindsight, or you're going to look like an absolute idiot in hindsight. We'll wait and see. But for your sake, I do hope that Arsenal beat Crystal Palace in the League Cup, because if they don't, my God, I'm definitely 100% leaving that in.
Yeah, clip that. You'll be
Okay,
clipping that, I'm sure.
100%. Okay, staying in North London then. Let me then move on to Tottenham. And Tottenham fans, you're not going to like this, but you can maybe understand it. I think it'd be fair to say. But my fourth prediction is that Ange Postecoglou will not be Tottenham manager come the end of 2025. I think he will be sacked at some point in this calendar year, and he will no longer be your manager. Why do I say that? Well, I have been a massive Ange supporter, and I think that he is a good manager, and he was the right appointment at the time. I think what I'm failing to see from Ange and this Tottenham side is that they're adapting and they're learning from their previous mistakes. He seems so gung ho on this is the way and this is it, which I think is good, but I do think that, if you're in the 40th minute and you're leading 1-0 and it's tight and it's tense, then, just hoof a ball long and just reset your defense and then see out the rest of the half. I think you can play your way, but you don't have to do it for the whole 90 minutes, and the perception of you will not change of you being a good attacking side. You'll actually be complimented more for adapting to the situation in front of you. So I think the lack of ability for Ange Postecoglou to change the side, and for the lack of the players to see it themselves on the pitch, means that I think ultimately it will lead to a bit of a crumbling. And also the fact that he said he does always win a trophy in his second year. And there's one thing as fans seeing the pattern and noticing it, and just saying, well, let's give him 2 seasons, let's see what happens. And there's nothing for him to come up with the words out of his own mouth. If it doesn't work out, he's made a rod for his own back. And I think probably not this season, not in the 24-25 season, but come November of the 25-26 season, I think if things don't change, he's going to be in a big trouble. And I do think that in terms of manager sackings, I think this is one which I can see on the horizon.
Yeah, that's a big, big shout. He is very popular at Tottenham, and
Is he? At the moment, is he?
maybe not the moment, but I think generally as well, with the change that there has been from the managers in the last few seasons, that he is a good, positive, like you said, positive style of play, which I think is a big thing. There are big tweaks that need to be made, I think, for it to be a sustainable model for Spurs. But again, with when they are playing at their best, they could win a trophy this season. They could win the Europa League or something, to be honest. They're one of the strongest sides in the Europa League. Still could do like an FA Cup run. I don't think the way that they play is sustainable for a league, which again is a big thing, and especially in terms of managers, that these clubs need to be in Europe and they need to be in the Champions League to make that money, to be one of the top clubs. It's a very bold shout, but it's one that I could certainly see happening. But I could also see it going the complete other way, in that like Tottenham win a trophy this season. Over the summer, maybe Ange realises that a few more little tweaks are needed, and next season he gets it right. But I could 100% see what you've predicted there, and things start to go catastrophically wrong on a more consistent basis than they already are now at times.
Yeah, and don't get it wrong. I want Spurs to win a trophy. I actually think that they've got a great chance of winning the Europa League this season. I think, considering some of the other sides, Man United. What Man United are you going to get? Galatasaray, I think, are a great one, but they did lose to them away from them. They did have injuries though at the back line. I do fancy Spurs for the Europa League, maybe. But if it wasn't to happen, then he has made that rod for his own back, and I think he's maybe just got carried away a little bit and just thought to himself, do you know what, I'm going to criticize left, right, and center, and do you know what, I'm going to do something about it and hit back. But actually, it's made it worse because every rival fan who hates Tottenham, who has an agenda against Ange Postecoglou, is going to reference that quote and say, well, you didn't win anything, so you know what? Not only are you a liar, but then you're not good enough for the job as well. And people are just going to be laughing at Spurs. And also, do you see them actually changing the style of play and actually, not losing to Bournemouth, not losing to Ipswich, teams who have quality players who can hurt you, but you expect Spurs to beat them on paper, and time again, it's almost predictable that they're going to drop points against lesser sides.
Yeah, I certainly can't see it this season, but there is just a chance that maybe if he's under a bit of pressure at the end of the season, they're going to say, right, we're going to give you to the end of the calendar year, and he's put in a position where he does have to shore things up. He's smart enough to do that, but he's also stubborn enough in his play style not to. So that's why I think it could go completely one way or the other. And yeah, I think I think in this prediction you could be spot on, or it could be the complete other way. And it's just classic Spurs. You never know what you're going to get, do you?
Exactly. And I will say, I do want Liverpool to win the Carabao Cup. Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I think it'd be great for Arne Slot as well to win a trophy straight away. But I think in terms of a League Cup, if Arsenal can beat Crystal Palace and if Tottenham can beat Man United, by the time this video comes out, we could have, a semi-final of Arsenal versus Spurs, or they could be separated and we could get a Carabao Cup final of Arsenal versus Spurs. That would be, in terms of a trophy that is seemingly, not important, seemingly, the weakest in the English division, that could be a final with so much at stake, not only for the clubs winning a trophy, but the managers themselves, the direction the two clubs go on after that. If Liverpool were not to be in the League Cup final, I would love to see a North London derby final.
Oh mate, the absolute scenes. I can now, when you just talking there, I can imagine the little the promo movie bit that they sort of play before the game on Sky Sports or whatever, and just that would be too good to even imagine a North London derby final. That would be absolutely elite. I've as much as I would be terrified that we'd lose that game and lose a lot of sort of respect and a lot of what's the word? Tottenham would be able to banter us for the next decade. Oh, it would be so good, so good.
Oh, mate, all the content that I can make for YouTube, it'd be great. Okay, we've waffled on about Spurs way too long. I think this is now your fourth prediction, our eighth one in total. Who have you got next?
Yeah, my fourth prediction could be one where maybe a team finishes above Spurs if yours goes right and Spurs this season goes horribly wrong, is that I think Bournemouth will finish in the top 8 in the Premier League this season. And a little caveat, maybe if the cup competitions go their way, they could even sneak into Europe, which would be an exceptional achievement given where Bournemouth were a decade ago. I mean, the progress they have made climbing up the football leagues, consolidating themselves as a Premier League football club, and now working their way up that table as well is nothing short of spectacular. In this season, third for expected points when taking into account XG for and against. Fourth for XG, fifth for XG against. Just a really, really, really solid squad with a really solid play style as well. They look so good going forward with Semenyo and Evanilson, and it feels like this season they have a pretty decent backline. I think that's definitely something they've worked on over the summer. Obviously bringing in Kepa, players like Kirkesh is having a really, really good season. And I just think with maybe a few of the teams around them sort of looking at like your Man United and your Tottenham's exactly the same, where they probably should be there, but maybe they're just not this season. And I think they can really sneak in above a few clubs and get in there and get their highest Prem finish ever.
Oh, I tell you what, I think this is one that could probably happen considering the fact that at the time of recording, Bournemouth are six. Hopefully, between now and then, they don't go on a terrible run of form. But I wonder if this would actually be a good thing for Bournemouth because obviously they lost Solanke in the summer, signed Evan Nielsen, fantastic signing, a great player, arguably should be playing in the Champions League on a regular basis. But then you've also got likes of Antoine Semenyo already being linked with likes of other clubs. What about other players? But not only other players, what about the manager, Andoni Raiola, as well? Would Bournemouth actually getting into European places be a good thing or a bad thing? Because would their club just be stripped of all the talent? And I wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth could go out and replace, the manager or the players, with players or a manager who are just as good, if not even better. That wouldn't surprise me. But would it actually, for maybe potentially one good season, it probably is worth it because the fan, like you said, the fans, it'd be an amazing experience for them. It'd be an amazing experience for the whole club. But long term, this is what I often think with like clubs lower down the table when they do end up doing well. Is it a good thing or is it potentially harmful? And yeah, that's something that we probably wouldn't know. But if Bournemouth were to get, European football, I think, yeah, it would be amazing for the club.
Yeah, it's a similar situation where Brighton, when they finished sixth and qualified for the Europa League, it felt a little bit early. Maybe they weren't ready to be in the European competition, and the effect that had on their Prem season the next year where they finished 12th, like you said, maybe not worth it. Yeah, you got a decent bit of money, but I think the difference between the money for the Champions League and Europa and Conference is absolutely huge. So maybe it'd be best if Bournemouth sort of slowly build up, get in that top half, 10th, 9th, hover around there for a few seasons and build their squad and have their squad ready more for Europe. But it would be so exciting. It would just be so good to see like the Conference League or even potentially the Europa League at the Vitality. Such a small stadium, to put it bluntly. I mean, I think it's only 14,000. Getting a European or like a European match there, it would be brilliant, and it'd be great to see some of those players in Europe because they've got such a talented squad. It would just be great. Yeah, Brighton in the Europa League was so fun to watch. Even if maybe, like you said, it wouldn't be the most sustainable for the club, which definitely could be the case for Brighton as well.
What even airport would everyone be coming to visit Bournemouth? Would it be a London one and they'd travel down?
I think Bournemouth might have a tiny, tiny, tiny little airport in there potentially, or Southampton might have a really, really small airport too, or Bristol's not too far for some away days for the European elite, I'm sure.
Oh my god, yeah, just the thought of it, like logistically as well, it sounds a bit weird, but it is something that, Europe potentially European giants would have to go and travel down to Bournemouth. Thursday night to Bournemouth, can you do it at Vitality? I mean, I'd love if they were to do it, I'd love Bournemouth to get European football because they're thinking about moving or in the process of building their new stadium. So I'd love them to do it at the Vitality while it's still this, still
Mm.
small, quite traditional championship ground, I think it's fair to say, before they move into a new stadium because I think that would
Mm.
be great, especially as away fans come to, oh, is this it? Is this the Premier League clubs? Is this the caliber of the opposition? And then Bournemouth to turn up and then absolutely smash them. So I think that would just be a lot of fun.
Oh, it'd be so good, wouldn't it? It'd be brilliant. Yeah, like we saw Roma and Marseille playing Brighton in the Europa League. Who would have thought that? And it could be the same again next season. Let's hope. Fingers crossed for them.
Yeah, but don't forget though that Roma absolutely slapped up Brighton. So maybe some nice, maybe a couple of decent results as well, which I'm sure they would be more than capable of getting. But yeah, I suppose on the topic of international football, there in terms of European football, I've got something a little bit different, not involving a club or specific player. I have got for my last and our ninth prediction is that I think the Club World Cup will be a success. Now, let me define success for you because obviously it is a very controversial tournament because obviously it has always been a thing, but it's always been a thing in the winter for a couple of clubs who do well, and only typically in Europe you get it if you win the Champions League. So obviously this is maybe a variation of the Super League that FIFA have decided to do because of the fact that they want more money more often. Obviously, their big thing is the World Cup, and that only happens every 4 years, whereas the Champions League is yearly, and those clubs, the institution of UEFA, who runs the European football, they get that Champions League money every single season. And so FIFA are trying to do something. So they've got the Club World Cup and they've expanded to 32 teams. Quite controversially, obviously they're doing it just for money, but I think because of the fact that it is over the summer or the summer months in the UK where we are, that it is typically a time where there's international football and the chance to still see some club football, and because of the fact you see players and teams of clubs who don't necessarily play. And I think for the clubs who aren't the European teams, so the likes of the Saudi Arabian teams, the teams in Asia, the teams in South and North America, I think for them, they will love this to have the chance to play against some of the best teams and some of the best players in the world. For them, this would be a phenomenal tournament and one they will look forward to playing in regularly. So I think it's only the European teams who probably won't enjoy it as much because with the fixtures, congestion, and difficulty. But I think in terms of having no other football because it won't be taking place during the international tournament, I actually think that in terms of interest and fanfare, people will love the Club World Cup. It will be a success in terms of people enjoying it, and therefore it will be a tournament that ends up happening continuously and will end up being one which eventually will become prestigious. And so, despite the injury concerns, despite the fact that players are playing too many games, especially in Europe, I think it will end up becoming success, despite the hope of many in Europe, I'd say.
Yeah, it's just a funny one with all these sorts of changes at the moment. The Club World Cup before, like you said, obviously taking place during sort of the regular season for European teams. There wasn't really much hype about it. It felt more like a nuisance, and it felt like an expectation for the European teams to win. Whereas I think with this change in format, it will be much better than it has been. And it's such a difficult one with like you said, with congestion. Same with the Champions League. The increased amount of games in the Champions League and the change in format. I've really enjoyed it this season. I can't lie. I think it works much better, and it brings a lot more important games to the group stage. But with the added fixtures, it's just a negative on sort of along with a positive. Yeah, I can definitely see the Club World Cup having a lot more hype around it, especially with it being in the summer, it being expanded, still having some really like elite teams in there, and not just however many 6 or 8 teams that there is in sort of the regular edition. So yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to watching it. Obviously, with in the back of my head, hopefully not players complaining or getting injured, which would be a shame. But yeah, I could definitely see that happening. What do you think the plan would be for the Club World Cup then, if it was sort of to continue and be really successful? Would it be something that's every 2 years, every 4 years, or they'll try and squeeze it in every year, perhaps even?
I don't think they could do it every year, just because of the fact that you've got the World Cup every 4 years, and then you've also got the Euros as well as God, I can't remember the name of the American
Copa
competition.
America.
Copa America, that's it. Thank you, mate. You'd also have Copa America. You then have AFCON and the Asia Cup as well every 2 to 4 years, I think it is as well. So they've got so many international tournaments, and the time frame that they've chosen is pretty much the only time frame that they could have done, but it'd have to be in non Euros or World Cup years. So that'd probably be every 2 years, but even then, it means that probably no footballer going forward, if you're a footballer of the top sides, will ever be able to get a rest in the summer. Like, I'm not worried about if Adam Smith at Bournemouth or if Aaron Cresswell at West Ham get breaks or not. It's about the top players. It's about Erling Haaland. It's about Rodri, Van Dijk, Salah, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, Robert Lewandowski, Lamine Yamal. It's about the players that everyone wants to see, but everyone wants to see them at their best. And there potentially will come a point where there's going to be oversaturation and people just will tune out and not care as much, and they'll pick and choose which competition they want to take interest in. But not only that, for the sake of seeing the top 50 players, we're going to put another 1,000 players in jeopardy of risking injuries and hurting themselves. But then what if the top players also injure themselves, aka Rodri? There is a very fine balance to be met here, which football as a whole is just not meeting. But if people enjoy it, which I think they will enjoy the Club World Cup, I don't think anything will change.
Yeah, it's just not sustainable for an athlete to be playing an elite sport all year round. They do need a break for their bodies. with sort of modern medicine and fitness over the last years, yes, they have extended their career to much later. But with these additional games, it's just going to start going back down again because, especially with these young players playing all year round, going to be playing 80, 90 games a year with no break of like a few weeks is ridiculous. And as much as, yeah, it could be successful in it, I'm sure it'd be a good watch. In the back of my mind, I kind of hope it's a failure and that they pack it in and don't do it anymore, or that it's not enough of a success for the teams that they pull out of it if it happens again, because it's just not sustainable, and we are going to be, like you said, missing some of the top players through injuries, which would just be gutting for a tournament that's maybe not really needed.
Yeah, but I tell you what, coming back into the 25-26 season, if Man City and Chelsea are going to be away during that time over the summer, and like the Liverpool and Arsenal, they could use that as an opportunity to capitalise as well. So you've got to take that into account. Arguably, it could mean that, yeah, you win a British tournament if you do end up to go win it, but it could mean that you give your opponents an advantage in the Premier League or the Champions League the following season. So you got so many things to take into account, and I think let's park the conversation for now because I'm sure we can talk about it when the Club World Cup does actually come round. We've got one more, and your final prediction for 2025. Toby, what is it?
Yeah, end on a nice downer, on a nice negative one. Pretty simple. I think all three promoted sides this season in the Premier League will be relegated. All three are currently bottom in terms of expected points. In terms of the actual table, they make up three of the bottom four. And that fourth other team, the non-promoted side, Wolves, I think they've got the quality to turn it round and leave Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton in that bottom three come the end of the season.
Oh, well, I wish I could disagree with you, but there is a high probability that it's going to happen. And I know what you've done there, mate. You've gone for a prediction that you think is safe because you want to get at least 1 out of 5.
No, not at all. I think that's a pretty bold prediction. I think most have got Ipswich sort of going for the Champions League places. So yeah, it took a lot of research to get that one done.
Yeah, I tell you what, mate. Ipswich Town in the Club World Cup coming up against Inter Miami and Lionel Messi. That's definitely going to happen, isn't it? Oh dear. What can I say? I can't really disagree because you can see it happening. I just hope for the sake of, I suppose, the English game that it doesn't happen because I would hate to see all three newly promoted sides go down again because I think one season as a one-off it's okay. Not ideal, but it's okay. But if it happens twice, then it's a pattern and then it's a problem. And I think that would lead to whoever comes up next season as they'd just be favorites to go down again, and then we just get the same teams again and again, and so you would never get the likes of Ipswich Town, Luton. You never get the likes of Brighton, Bournemouth. I'm trying to think of other teams. Brighton and Bournemouth as examples of teams who are traditionally not going to be the biggest 20 in English football, but it's based on meritocracy. So yeah, while I can completely see it happening, I hope it doesn't.
Yeah, there is a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League side. I mean, when you've got Wolves who have gone out and spent £50 million signing a player from Atletico Madrid as your relegation competition, it's a super tough ask to get promoted and stay up. But yeah, I just think Southampton all but gone already. Is that too bold to say? Ipswich, I think, will be like the Luton of last year, winning people's hearts, playing really well, but just not strong enough. And Leicester, not convinced by Ruud van Nistelrooy. To be honest, I think they look really poor defensively, and I think that's going to come back to bite them come the end of the season. So, yeah, I hope it doesn't happen for a third year in a row after that, but I can certainly see it happening for a second year in a row this coming summer, unfortunately.
Well, that's a fun one to end it on, but but there you go. Those are our 10 predictions for 2025. Let us know in the comments below what you think of ours, and also let us know if you've got your own predictions. What do you think is going to happen in the world of football? Completely open, any league, any division. Let us know what you think. And I think that brings us finally onto the last edition of this year's quiz.
Yes, the final round of Guess the Club. Round number 16, we are deciding to call it quits there, sum up all the points, and move on to a new quiz format in the week after that. So currently after 15 rounds, it's Mev on 31 and myself on 34 with one left to play.
Lovely. So I've got a lot of catching up to do, which means, though, just to make it interesting, I should probably go first, then shouldn't I? And hopefully I do well.
Yeah. Put the pressure on if you can pull out put out a big score. So, are you ready for your first player?
Yeah, go on. And if I do really badly, then maybe we can do double points just to keep it interesting.
Okay, so your first player for 5 points is Brad Friedel.
Oh, God, okay. Brad Friedel, Villa, Blackburn, pretty sure that's Spurs. Might have been in Liverpool for a bit. I am going to go for... Which is the less obvious ones? I think they're all pretty obvious. I'm going to go for Aston Villa.
It is not Aston Villa, unfortunately. Your second player for 4 points is Robbie Keane.
Robbie Keane. Okay, so... Okay, very similar again. Glad I said Villa. This time, let's go for Spurs.
It is not Spurs, unfortunately. Third player for 3 points. I think you're going to get it here. Victor Moses.
Victor Moses. You said I'm going to get it. Chelsea, Wigan, Liverpool, Stoke, Villa. Right, let's not overcomplicate this. Liverpool.
And it is your beloved Reds, Mevin. Yep, Liverpool for 3 points. Had to throw it in on the last week. Brad Friedel, Robbie Keane, Victor Moses. Your two next players would have been Joe Cole and Mario Balotelli. I tried to put in not super niche players because I thought you would get that straight away, but players who have played for a handful of like other clubs as well, just to try and throw you off.
Okay, so what are the scores now then?
So you're on 34 and I'm on 34. So I need a point, just a point to win.
Okay, so good thing I've made this quite hard. So let's see if you get it.
Oh God, you're gonna have shagged me.
No,
you're gonna have stitched me right up.
No, I haven't checked you. You know every single one of these players. You know a lot of the clubs we play for, but can you get the one that links them all, Toby? For the win, are you ready?
I am. I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
Okay. Your first player for 5 points is Steven Corker.
Steven Corker. Could be Liverpool.
Could be.
Could be QPR. Could be Spurs. Could be Cardiff. Is Liverpool too obvious? Or it could be Spurs. Let's go for Liverpool. Let's get it out of the way.
It is not Liverpool, unfortunately, or should I say fortunately. So your next player for 4 points is Dan Burn.
Dan Burn. No, that's quite obvious. He was at Brighton. I was going to say I thought that was a niche bit of knowledge that he was at Brighton before Newcastle, but it's not really, is it? Only know Brighton and Newcastle. Steven Corker could have played for Brighton. But it could be... It's not going to be Spurs for Dan Burn. It could be QPR or Cardiff. But I'll go for Brighton.
It is not Brighton. So, pressure's on, Toby. Your third player for 3 points is Sam Morsy.
Sam Morsy. I only know him at Ipswich at the moment. Probably a good idea to go for Cardiff or QPR, given I know that they were Steven Corker's clubs. Or Spurs. I can't imagine Dan Burn at Spurs. That doesn't seem right, does it? QPR?
It is not QPR. Oh, the pressure's on, Toby.
Nope.
Your fourth player for 2 points is Anthony Robinson.
Anthony Robinson. God, I only know Fulham here as well. No, I have no idea. I literally have no idea. I'm just going off Steven Corker's clubs. It's not going to be Fulham, so let's go for Spurs.
It's not Spurs. Obviously, I had to make it hard to make sure you didn't get it.
All comes down to the final
So
one.
obviously, I've got two players written down. If I give you one, you will 100% get it. If I give you the other one, I'm not so sure. Which one do you want?
Well, go the 100% one, obviously.
Your last player for 1 point is Ali Al Habsi.
Surely it's got to be. Oh, there's actually two it could be. That is definitely not a 100% player, I wouldn't say. Because he's obviously played for Wigan and he's most known for that, but he has also played a number of games for Reading. But it's got to be Wigan, right?
And he wins the quiz. Well done, Toby.
Oh, bloody hell. The jammy point at the end. Yeah. Dan Burn maybe rings a bell with Wigan now, but the others, no idea. Who was the other player who wasn't 100%?
It was Ivan Toney.
Ivan Toney, that is a tough old list if you would have given me Toney there.
I know, I had 6 players written down. I wasn't sure what order I was going to give them to you. But obviously, so Stephen Coker was at Wigan in 2013, just for a bit. Dan Burn was at Wigan before Brighton. Sam Morsey was at Wigan before Middlesbrough, which is the club he then left to join Ipswich Town. Anthony Robinson started his career off at Everton, was on loan to Wigan in 1819, then moved permanently in 1920 before joining Fulham. Ivan Toney was there on loan from Newcastle in 1718, and Ali Al Habsi. When you think of Ali Al Habsi, I go straight to Wigan, and he was there from 2010 to 2015.
Nice. Yeah, that would have been tough with Tony. I would have been very annoyed at myself if I wouldn't have got that and bottled it on the last one. So thanks for the nice and for the Ali Al Habsi.
Well, you almost overthanked it and went for Reading, so you know what? You're welcome.
Yeah, we'll take it. Made it interesting at least. So yeah, a win by a point on Guess the Club. We'll take it.
Yeah, well, I'm comfy on the next one, mate. But that is it for this week's episode of the podcast, and that is it for the quiz as well. So we've got some ideas about what we're going to do next, but if anyone in the comments and watching this wants to let us know what they would like us to do, then we're more than welcome to listen to some ideas. But those are also our 10 predictions for the year 2025. Let us know if you've got any of your own, and we will see you in the next one.